Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. The weather started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle, with Gilligan, the skipper too, a millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor and Mary Ann, here on Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island was cotton candy for the mind.
It was silly,
goofy,
a warm-hearted romp,
slapstick.
It was ridiculous.
It will always be timeless. Well, that's what makes it timeless. If it's always.
In Shakespeare's time, Hamlet was pop culture. In the 1960s, Gilligan's was pop culture.
One of the reasons shows like Gilligan's Island and a lot of other TV shows from that period have now got all of this cultural value and currency is, I think, the fact that we have now got a limited amount of things that we all remember seeing at the same time.
You were gonna watch everything because you just had to. I mean, it was still a kind of a novel thing. Oh, we have a TV in the house. Wow, this is amazing.
There were only like 2 channels, and you had to get to them like this.
The shows were nice, clean-cut shows, funny.
If you look at the history of the show, network executives didn't like it. Critics hated it.
This is outrageous. What nerve, what gall!
The network and the critics didn't understand the show. The critics savaged the show. The phrase is, everyone hated the show but the audience.
I think the reason the network executives and critics didn't care for Gilligan's Island is because they felt like there had to be some resolution.
Only an idiot would believe that.
Look what happened. I mean, the show has become one of the most beloved shows of all time.
It does prove that there's good in all of us, doesn't it?
The 60s used television as a sorbet to clear the palate come prime time of all of this stuff that was going on. The civil rights movement, the assassinations, 2 Kennedys and Martin Luther King, a war completely out of control.
This was the 1960s, not the 1860s, right? So there's a Cold War going on, the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that stuff, and it was I think, a literal and physical escape for people.
You know, this man has a keen insight into human behavior.
I think most of the people who have a great affection for Gilligan's Island, in fact, didn't watch it the first time around. I think most of them were, in fact, kids who were watching it in reruns in these 5-day-a-week dosages. I mean, you could really mainline Gilligan's Island.
What did you and your family do for entertainment?
I would go home after school, and I would watch it all the time.
Yeah,
I still watch it in reruns.
As soon as I finished my homework, I would turn on Gilligan's Island and just sit back and watch the show, and I would just laugh and laugh and laugh.
I remember watching Gilligan's Island growing up, and in the very, very opening credits, when they're actually leaving on the 3-hour tour, the bay where they're leaving from is the bay where my family used to launch our boat every weekend. So I lived in fear that we were gonna get shipwrecked at some time in our ski boat. You know, like my parents are gonna let that happen.
We're sure glad to see you. We've been shipwrecked here a long time.
Yeah, we sure have. We've been here days and months and years.
The show's been on for over 40 years. Is that something?
Has there anything that has lasted 40 years?
It's the longest-running sitcom ever.
And that's really remarkable because it maintains a rating and people still love it all these years later.
The fact that Gilligan's Island has been on for 40 years in 30 different languages, 60 countries. I'm not even sure there are 60 countries.
The slapstick is also one reason it's so popular all over the world.
I've actually seen some of the episodes in foreign language, and it's still funny to watch.
Con un solo trago de esta poción antivampírica, me siento como nuevo.
Or as the French would say,
Oui, je sais, mais j'aime qu'ils me le disent.
I love how sex was portrayed on TV in the 60s.
The Howells had separate beds.
Hello, Quakers.
They've been married for years. We get it. We know.
You see, the fuel in this jetpack has given me a propellant potency retention problem.
Dare you talk that way in front of my wife?
Sex on television in the 60s didn't exist.
Just kind of a hush-hush thing that husbands and wives did.
On screen, it was a pretty sanitized world we were living in.
Off TV, it was just a big, horny orgy free-for-all.
It was crazy to see Marianne's stomach.
Ginger's pointy bra, that was sex on TV in the 60s. And it didn't get much sexier than that.
Skipper, you do like me better than Ginger, don't you?
Well, I like you both, Marianne.
Well, if that's your attitude, you can have her.
Of all of the things that come up when discussing Gilligan's Island, the one that bugs me most is the Ginger or Marianne question. And this has become one of the great cliches of American popular culture.
I think it probably started at the water cooler back in the 60s, and it just lived on.
Do men really want the glamorous bombshell, or do they want the girl next door?
The Ginger Marianne question really bothers me, and I bet it bothers Mrs. Howell as well.
Ginger could have a secret admirer. She's a beautiful movie star.
And why not me?
Well, Lovey, after all.
After all what?
I mean, let's get her into the equation. It should be Ginger, Marianne, or Mrs. Howell.
It's a dumb question because it in fact has only one answer, which is not Ginger or Marianne. The answer, of course, is Ginger and Marianne.
I'd choose Marianne, but I'd ask Ginger out first.
I choose Marianne, but remind Marianne at every time that I could have chosen Ginger.
The basic theme of Gilligan's Island is a very serious one. It's about people learning to live together.
It's a great character study of these different stereotypes and these people from truly different echelons and walks of life, you know, learning how to coadjust and to live together.
That happens more often in the movies than it does in real life.
What Gilligan's Island does, I think, very astutely and really quite elegantly, is it takes the most obvious broad brushstrokes of human types and it places them in characters.
Gilligan is so my type, it's ridiculous. Gangly, uncomfortable in his own body, awkward in social situations.
You don't feel worthy of being loved.
I don't? Gilligan was loved, but then you'd want to wring his neck every now and then.
Gilligan's, you, Skipper, don't say it, not in front of children.
What children?
Me, I'm just a loudmouth kid. Get away.
The Skipper's the kind of guy that everyone would want as the best friend, I think. I was going to say that you could really trust him, except that he did strand all these people on that island and couldn't get them off for at least 3 years.
Gilligan, they're blaming me!
Yeah, duh, you're the skipper, man.
And he's
Go down with the ship! Go down with the ship, Skipper!
Have you ever had a secret admirer, Marianne?
If I did, he sure kept it a secret.
Marianne is my personal favorite character. I like to think of myself a little bit like her.
Never saw anything like this back in our farm. Except under a cow.
She's wholesome, accessible, your girl next door.
Don't worry, as long as I'm with you, you have nothing to be afraid of.
The hottest guy on the island was the professor because he was aloof, he was smart, he was good looking, and he wore his shirt sleeves up. And that to me means a man that's gonna get down to business and get things done, and I wanna kiss him.
Thought I'd stop by and check on that henna shampoo that I... Good heavens. 2 Gingers.
Ginger was hot. She was what I thought it was all about. She was what made me want to come to Hollywood.
I once knew a movie producer who turned into a wolf.
I was a Ginger guy.
Sister, don't just stand there, run!
Howell never runs in the face of danger.
Oh!
He walks very fast.
The Howells. The parents I always wanted.
Anyone who says money can't buy happiness doesn't know where to shop.
You'd have one of the richest men in America trapped on an island, and nobody's looking for the guy, you know? What is that all about?
Gilligan's Island didn't operate under the same rules that the real world did.
Do you think he's strong enough to fly home yet?
I don't know about him, but if I had to keep this up much longer, I'll be strong enough.
That's what made that island so appealing, is that it operated under rules whereby a coconut could be turned into a radio.
I'll keep pedaling. Pedal faster.
You can make everything out of a coconut.
What did Gilligan say this is?
It's his own creation, Mrs. Howell. It's coconut pot pie.
What can I make out of a coconut? Well, first of all, shredded coconut.
This shredded coconut is good. You sure you don't want some?
You can't make a bigger coconut out of a smaller coconut.
Right.
Start pedaling.
Imagine pedaling to drill your own teeth.
Gilligan, start pedaling. Faster.
It was just funny to see how the professor could always come up with these great, crazy inventions, and you kind of wonder where they got the materials to make these things.
Well, I've wired the ship's horn from the minnow, and I've utilized the batteries from the radio. If anyone lies, the horn goes off.
He concocts a lie detector machine.
You see, I always tell the truth.
That was one of my favorite things on the show, is to watch the professor come up with gadgets.
Well, he has no fever. His temperature is normal.
Yeah, but his barometer is falling. I think it's going to rain.
Whatever new thing comes out, you'll find Gilligan's Island. Well, I'm now doing a reality Gilligan's Island.
The real Gilligan's Island, of course, this reality show which attempts to kind of cash in on the iconography that is so well known about Gilligan's Island. I think what's most interesting about that show is it's a love letter to a program that's 40 years old.
We loved our experience on the real Gilligan's Island because I grew up watching the show. I loved it as a child, and to play Lovey Howell, darling, Boston.
The real Gilligan's Island, yeah, is a love letter to the original. We tried as producers to maintain as much of the feel of the original Gilligan's Island as we could. At the same time, it's a reality show, so we wanted a cast that would keep it interesting, and which our cast did the first season, that's for sure.
Well, I had to bring somebody along. I may have to prove my theory.
Theory? What theory?
My theory of Gilligan's Island was that these 7 people had in fact died and went to heaven.
Don't be ridiculous.
You're not even dead yet.
And there's lots to show this. If you go to the old mythology of how one gets to the other world, it's often through a boat. And what they found in that island was, in fact, the Garden of Eden.
I can only hope that heaven consists of ladies in gowns and coconut cream pies.
Some people say that the 7 people represent the 7 deadly sins.
Joy. Oh, sorrow.
If anything, it was a metaphor for getting away from what we have to go through every day.
What are you doing?
I'm destroying the raft.
After that show was on the air for so many years, you start to think, there's a reason they don't build that boat. They don't want to leave the island. Who would want to leave the island? You've got everything there you need. You don't have to pay bills. No one knows who you are. All your idiot family members, you don't have to talk to them.
I don't know if the characters ever wanted to get rescued.
They really wanted to go. I think
they seemed pretty
enjoyed
happy. Yeah.
They had food, shelter,
Right.
each other, laughter, entertainment.
As much as they seemed to want to get off of that island, we as viewers were kind of dying to get onto it. And if you can be stranded with 6 people as tolerant as the ones that each one of those on Gilligan's Island can be, maybe not such a bad fate.